The Harwich Mariners look to clinch a playoff spot in the 2021 Cape Cod Baseball League postseason this afternoon against a team that has had their number all season long in the Brewster Whitecaps here at Stony Brook Field. Hello, everybody. Welcome in to the broadcast booth. My name is Colin Casey, as always joined by Tyler Henry. And Tyler, it's a team that Mariners haven't had any success really to speak of this season in the Brewster Whitecaps, but the stakes could not be higher for Harwich. They win this afternoon, and they have punched their ticket to the postseason against this Brewster Whitecaps team.
Yep, and again, if they get a win today, not only do they punch their tickets to the playoffs, they're sitting a half a game behind these very Whitecaps. They have the same number of games played on the season, and they'll have a chance to return to White House Field tomorrow to steal the first place spot in the East away from the Whitecaps for the first time all season long. So a lot riding on this game, but as you mentioned, this is a Harwich team that so far this year has scored 3 runs in 3 games with the Brewster Whitecaps. These bats are going to have to produce if Harwich is going to find a way to sneak out of Brewster with a victory.
They will have to do it against Griffin Green out of Virginia Tech. The right-hander will face this Harwich Mariners lineup that, again, it's been hot and cold all year long, mostly hot in the month of July, but not so much against the Brewster Whitecaps. Here's how it looks. Press Kavanaugh lead things off in left field. Kavanaugh second in the CCBL in batting average. Chris Newell in center. He homered in his return last night at White House Field. Brock Wilkin bats third. He plays third. Dylan Phillips at first in the cleanup spot. Carter Putz, the DH, bats fifth. Jordan Beck out in right field. He bats sixth. Josh Hood, the shortstop, batting seventh. Brennan Tinsman draws back in the lineup behind the plate. He bats eighth. And Max Codier over at second will round out the Mariners lineup. As Press Kavanaugh digs into the box, he comes into today with a .348 batting average on the season. 1 home run, 13 runs batted in, and the first pitch of the game from Griffin Green misses below the knees.
And honestly, this is going to be big. Harwich has been patient all year long, but the one thing that's really kind of bit them against these Brewster Whitecaps, they don't put a lot of guys on for free. Not a lot of hit batters, certainly not a lot of walks, so patience can only take you so far.
Kavanaugh watches a strike, of course, the last time out. The Mariners dropping one at home despite a late comeback in the 9th inning, falling just a run short. Final in that one, 4-3. 1-1 on the way, and Kavanaugh inside out swing. That will fall quickly into left field for a base hit. Kavanaugh's thinking 2, but he will be held up at first base. So Press Kavanaugh leads the game off with a single. Let's take a look at the Brewster Whitecaps defense. Jake Thompson over at first base. The second baseman is Nick Biddison. Trey Faltini at short and Tony Bullard at third. Left to right in the outfield, Chad Castillo in left. Spencer Jones in center, and former Harwich Mariner Chris Lanzilli out in right field. And Curtis Byrne will do the catching for Griffin Green. So here is Chris Newell, University of Virginia outfielder who homered. Hit his 5th home run of the season last night in his first game in over a week as a throw over, and Kavanaugh's back with a dive.
And you look at that bloop single, those are the kinds of breaks Harwich had not caught at any point during either of the 2 games here at Stony Brook Field. So you just get the feeling if all those things are going to even out, Harwich might have a couple of good games coming their way.
The 0-1 misses down and away. The one that really comes to mind for me, Tyler, was that 4th of July game where the Mariners were squaring up the baseball. They just couldn't find any holes, and another outstanding pitching performance from Brewster, which we've seen in all 3 of the games between these 2 teams this year. Every single starting pitcher has gotten the job done for the Whitecaps. Newell swings and misses at the 1-0.
And the bullpen's been just as good. Talking about a Griffin Green that, again, he came in relief of his starter Bryce Hubbard against the Mariners at White House Field. He pitched 2 he pitched 2 innings, gave up 1 run on 1 hit, struck out 4 and walked 2. Already 1 batter, 1 hit for the Mariners, so they're seeing him well, at least here in the early goings.
Another check on the runner in Kavanaugh, who is a threat to steal. He has 7 on the season, but he's been caught twice. If there's a team that likes to run, it's these Brewster Whitecaps, far and away the CCBL leader in stolen bases this season. The 1-1, fastball misses up and away, and looking at those standings, Brewster coming into this game with 56 stolen bases, 13 more than second place Katuitt. Of course, Colin Davis, a big reason why, is he stole, I believe, 12 bags in an abbreviated stint here on the CCBL with Brewster, as Newell takes a big rip but can't connect, count even 2-2.
Yeah, and we'll see if Newell can find his way aboard here. But again, for Harwich, you just get the feeling they got to find a way to get out on top. They have not led the Brewster Whitecaps in 2021. 3 games, Brewster has led the entirety of all 3 of them. So for Harwich, just being ahead, I mean, it feels like a completely different scenario than anything else they've seen against this Brewster team.
2-2, and Newell hits this one well out to right center field. Spencer Jones heading back, though, and he'll make the catch a few feet in front of the wall for out number 1. Kavanaugh heads back to first. Chris Newell just missed his 6th home run of the season by a matter of feet out in center field, one away.
And good to see that Newell has just settled back in here very well. He has looked comfortable back in the box. We kind of wondered if it would take a couple of games for him to get started again, but that doesn't seem to be the case here.
So here comes Brock Wilkin, the team leader in home runs, now just 1 up on Chris Newell with 6 on the year for Wilkin.
Which is made all the more impressive by the fact that Newell did miss those 10 games.
Wilkin also lead the team with 24 runs batted in. Green's first pitch, a fastball right down the middle.
Yep, and we'll see how Wilkin wants to approach this. Doesn't get down in too many counts.
Umpire and crew for this afternoon's game, Jason Caraco behind the plate, Mike Rabideau at first, and David Chiasson over at third. Throw over, and Kavanaugh back with a dive.
And you get the feeling we're going to see a lot of that down the home stretch here. This is a Harwich team that, again, we don't have the numbers. They're not kept here in the CCBL, but you just get the feeling the Mariners have either been picked off or thrown out trying to swipe second more than almost any other team in the league this year.
The 0-1 to Wilkin. This is down and away. Wilkin's average just below 300 at 299. However, that is still good enough to be up there in the batting title race. Currently sits 8th in the CCBL. Tied for 8th with Bourne's Dalton Rushing. Green with a long look in. Now he comes home. A fastball in there for a strike. He waited a long time to deliver that pitch, Tyler.
Yeah, I'm almost surprised that we didn't see Wilkin call for time, but he stays in. He wants to face the next pitch, and credit there to where it's due to Griffin Green, who has looked pretty comfortable here despite giving up the leadoff single to press Kavanaugh. Trying to settle in, get a second out here.
A quick throw over. It gets away, but it hits the umpire. What a bad break for the Mariners as Mike Rabideau over at first couldn't get out of the way of it. It hits him in the ankle and goes right back to the first baseman, Thompson.
Yeah. And you know the speed Kavanaugh has. He would be standing on second if it wasn't for Mike Rabideau's Mike Rabbit toe.
It's a good one. 1 ball, 2 strike to count. Pitch to Wilkin. Chopped foul off the catcher, Byrne.
Yep, so a good battle here by Wilkin, settling in, and again, those are the kinds of breaks. It's just something about Stony Brook. There's just a cloud hanging over everything the Harwich Mariners do. They hit the ball well, but it's right at people. They get the soft contact, but they can't catch the breaks. We don't see errors. We don't see walks. We don't see hit batters. It's going to be an uphill battle for Harwich, if only mentally.
1-2, Kavanaugh running, and it's popped up foul out of play by Wilkin. And you mentioned the cloud. It's definitely a metaphorical cloud today because it is a beautiful day here in Brewster for baseball. Of course, the early start time at 4 o'clock, making sure we can get the full 9 innings here this afternoon, and a critical game for both teams. Brewster trying to lock up that #1 seed in that division title, regular season division title, and for the Mariners, they're just trying to get to the postseason and set the playoff picture in the East as another throw over on Kavanaugh in the dirt, but dug out by Thompson. Kavanaugh safe.
Yeah, the Cape Cod Baseball League today, and almost only today, where the stars of tomorrow shine this afternoon. This is the earliest start time we've had all year, and unless there's another game with these Brewster Whitecaps in the playoffs, which does seem likely, probably not going to see another game this early again.
Another 1-2 to Wilkin. Soft line drive to short. Faltini will try to turn 2. He gets it to second for 1. On to first. And Wilkin just able to beat the return throw. So it's a fielder's choice. Kavanaugh heads back to the dugout. Wilkin on first. Now 2 away in the top of the first.
And this just feels so reminiscent of what we've seen in these games at Stony Brook. Harwich gets a runner on, but they just can't get anybody past second base. And I mean, again, you're talking about 3 games, a pretty decent sample size. One of those games shortened in 8 innings to darkness, but this is a Mariners team that in those 3 games, 12 hits, 3 runs, that's it.
Yeah, the bats just seem to quiet every time Mariners face off against the Whitecaps, but it's a very good chance that they'll have that opportunity to get hot when it matters. There's a line drive foul right towards the Mariners' dugout. Hopefully everyone's okay.
Yeah, it does get off the netting there on the front side, but definitely a heads-up moment. If everybody over there wasn't engaged before, they certainly are now. But let's talk a little bit more about this Brewster team. We've mentioned that they are one of the hottest teams. Right now, they're the hottest team in the CCBL. They are 10-2-1 in their last 13, and that includes 6 come-from-behind victories, including 2 in the last couple of days.
A 1, and Dylan Phillips takes it outside, and that's significant, Tyler, because we talked before the game. They're quickly closing in on the Bourne Braves for the best record in the entire CCBL. That could matter if those two teams were to meet in the championship series.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're talking about the hottest team that you and I have ever seen in the Cape and the Bourne Braves, and these Whitecaps are only 2 games back in the same number of games played.
Phillips fooled badly on that off-speed pitch. He falls behind 1 and 2, and yeah, for Bourne, just things haven't been going too well since they've clinched that postseason berth, and you wonder if they might be taking their foot off the gas a little bit.
It's a dangerous proposition. You want to be going into the postseason playing your best baseball, and for Bourne, you know, they still have the talent, but, you know, will that talent perform the same without that momentum if they limp into the playoffs?
1-2, and Phillips waves at it and misses. First strikeout of the game for Griffin Green. He pitches a scoreless top of the first. The Whitecaps coming to the plate when we come back. You're listening to the Harwich Mariners YouTube network. Bottom of the first from Brewster as the Whitecaps hosting the Harwich Mariners. No score through half an inning, and it'll be Wyatt Scotty out on the mound for the Mariners to start this game. Tyler, a little interesting that it's Scotty. He pitched just a few days ago, 4 days ago, against YD. A quick turnaround in a game in which he got the loss after pitching 3 1/3 innings, allowing 5 earned runs on 6 hits. And that start got off to a great beginning, Tyler, and then that 4th inning really derailed his momentum.
Yeah, I mean, again, he looked very good through the early goings of that game. As you mentioned, he did end up getting roughed up a bit after that. And you also wonder if that might change the way Harwich chooses to use him today, whether he might be more of kind of the classic opener. We may see him go the first time through the lineup, and that's it. But Tim Foley and I had an opportunity to talk about this yesterday on the broadcast. Harwich is really running out of options when it comes to starting pitching. They have 2 of the best starters on the Cape. They've got 2 of the best relievers on the Cape. But for those other spots, I mean, the question is, what do you do at this point in the year? And Scotty looked good first time through the order. He'll be trusted here with trying to go out a Whitecaps lineup that's done enough to get the job done all season long. But you just wonder what we're going to see the rest of the season, especially if Harwich is still contending for that top playoff spot with Brewster.
Leading off that Whitecaps lineup is Spencer Jones, who launched a 3-run home run the last time these two teams played here at Stony Brook Field. Hit one the other way out to left center where it's 375. So quite the poke for the Vanderbilt Commodore, who watches the first pitch miss outside from Wyatt Scotty.
Yeah, and of course, we got a chance to see him make his debut here in the CCBL this year after returning from the College World Series run that Vanderbilt went on. He's looked solid ever since.
Pitch misses outside. Yeah, he made his debut as a pinch hitter in the first game between these two teams here at Stony Brook Field and was promptly hit by a pitch. So painful debut for Jones as he swings at the 2-0 and misses.
And he's just a towering presence out there in that batter's box, one of the taller guys in the CCBL, especially from field level where you and I are sitting right now just behind home plate off to the first base side. And I mean, he's got a big strike zone, but you got to be careful throwing in there.
Mariners playing him straight up, and he hits this one to the right side. Phillips fields it. He'll take it himself to first, and Spencer Jones, the center fielder, is retired. to begin the home half of the first. Let's take a look at the rest of the Brewster Whitecaps lineup. Tony Bullard coming to the plate. He bats second and plays third. Jake Thompson, the first baseman, bats third. Chris Lanzilli, former Harwich Mariner and recently committed Arkansas Razorback, bats fourth in the cleanup spot. Chad Castillo bats fifth in left field. Will Simpson, the designated hitter, bats sixth. Curtis Byrne behind the plate, he is seventh. Nick Biddison at second base bats eighth, and Trey Faltini at short rounds out the Brewster lineup. First pitch to Tony Bullard, the Arizona Wildcat, is a called strike.
Yeah, we'll see what he can do with Bullard here. But again, this is not a lineup that goes out and drops crazy numbers on people, as this one's fouled away back to the on-deck circle for Brewster. They just do what they need to do to get the job done. And how many times have we seen this year where we're doing the out-of-town scoreboard on our broadcast and, oh, the Brewster Whitecaps are down by 3 runs. And then fast forward a couple of hours and they find ways to come back. Again, 6 come from behind wins, 3 in the last 3 innings in the last 14 days.
0-2 breaking ball, Bullard able to lay it off. Very reminiscent of the Boston Red Sox this season, where they've had over, I believe, 30 come from behind victories this season, which is incredible. Brewster just finding ways to win. Very similar to what Bourne's done all year. There's been a lot of times where the Bourne Braves have found themselves in situations where, oh, they're out of this game, and all of a sudden they come roaring back and pick up a victory. Front door breaking ball misses inside to Tony Bullard, the senior from Riverside, California.
Well, it sounds like a cheesy stereotype, but at the end of the day, good teams do find ways to win, bad teams find ways to lose, and that's really all we've seen this year.
Hard ground ball to third. Wilkin diving, can't come up with it. Goes off the glove of Hood, who tried knocking it down. And it'll be an infield single for Tony Bullard.
And again, that's basically what Brewster has been getting in this series so far this year against the Mariners. It's a ball that's hit well, but, you know, again, if it's in a different spot, it's an easy enough play to make for either Wilkin or Preisner. Instead, it goes right in between them, and Brewster's got a man aboard here with 1 away.
That'll bring in the dangerous Jake Thompson. Thompson on the season, 281. 3 long balls, 16 runs driven in. Currently riding a 4-game hit streak as he swings at the first pitch and fouls it to the left. Of course, he had that big home run. That was a difference maker on July 26th against the Mariners at White House Field, the 3-run blast. Put the game at 4-0 at the time, and Harwich only able to get as close as 1. 0-1 is sliced off to the left, out of play.
Yeah, and again, I mean, for the Mariners, it almost feels imperative that this team find a way to take a lead early in this game because they have fallen behind Brewster a number of times before, and there's just that foreboding sense of, you know, are we going to be able to find a way to get something done when you look at this lineup? So, Mariners looking to get out of this inning first and then try to come back and take their first lead of the season on the Whitecaps here in the 4th meeting between the two.
That's crazy. They have not led for an inning all season long against this team. There's a ball in the dirt. Brendan Tinsman able to knock it down, and up to second is Tony Bullard. Let's take a quick look at the Mariners defense. Tinsman behind the plate. Dylan Phillips at first, Max Cody at second, Josh Hood at short, and Brock Wilkin at third. Press Kavanaugh out in left, Chris Newell in center, Jordan Beck, the right fielder for Steve Englert's Mariners. 1 ball, 2 strikes to count to Thompson out of Oklahoma State. Scotty, the Northeastern Husky, comes home, and the 1-2 is grounded towards the Mariners' dugout foul.
We talk a little bit also about, you know, it just feels a little bit strange when you play here at Stony Brook, especially at this point in the season where you have these 4 o'clock start times, typically games starting anywhere between 5:30 and 7 here on the Cape. So you got to think Brewster is certainly a lot more accustomed to that. They're in a bit more of a rhythm, whereas if you're the Mariners, I mean, you're starting 3 hours sooner than what you typically do. Your whole daily routine is shifted just a little bit, and sometimes that can be all it takes to throw guys off by a little bit.
Could explain the rut the offense has been in on the road against Brewster as Thompson hits this one high in the air out to right center field. Over to make the catch is Newell. Tagging and bluffing is Tony Bullard as he retreats to second. A good throw into the cutoff man by Newell, and they're now 2 away with the runner on second.
Yeah, that's one arm that, I mean, again, whether he's been in the lineup whether it's bad or not, you're not going to test Chris Newell out in center. We saw the same thing yesterday. Somebody thought about coming in on a ball hit out to center field, and that thing found the plate before the guy even turned around and touched the bag.
It's an RBI opportunity for Chris Lanzilli, who has a conversation with his former Demon Deacon teammate Brennan Tinsman walking into the batter's box. Of course, Lanzilli Played at the Harwich Mariners in 2019. Part of that team that went all the way to the CCBL Championship, and he's going to be going to the postseason once again as he flies one down the right field line out of play.
Well, and you mentioned he's talking to Tinsman, his former teammate at Wake Forest. Of course, it was announced yesterday that Chris Lanzilli would be transferring to the University of Arkansas. So future Razorback heading to the SEC.
Lanzilli also a Massachusetts native from Stoneham, just outside of Boston. Look at second by Scotty. Scotty also a Bay State native. In fact, he's local to the Cape from Marston's Mills out in Barnstable County.
Yeah, you don't see too many of those guys. There are a few, but most of the guys, even though they are from the Northeast, not from the Cape itself.
0-1 misses down and away. There were a lot of local guys, Tyler, on that Katuitt team that won it all in 2019, I remember. A couple of guys from the Marston Mills area, as well as a lot of areas on the, a lot of towns, I should say, on the western part of the Cape.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of gambles like that pay off. I mean, Bourne did something a little bit similar, not with location, but with age this year.
Lanzilli drives one out to center field. That sends Newell back on his horse, looking up, and he's able to make the catch. Chris Newell runs one down just in front of the center field fence as Lanzilli just missed, giving the Whitecaps an early lead against his former team, but he is denied. After one inning of play, we are scoreless from Stony Brook Field. You're listening to the Harwich Mariners YouTube Network. On to the second inning between the Harwich Mariners and the Brewster Whitecaps. Again, if the Harwich Mariners win this game this afternoon, they will clinch a spot in the postseason and be one of four teams battling out for the 2021 CCBL Championship. Tyler, a really cool moment before the game. The first pitch was thrown out by the great-grandson, who's just 2 years old, of former Boston Red Sox legend, well, I guess current legend, because he's still highly regarded here in the state of Massachusetts, outfielder Carl Yastrzemski. Really cool for a descendant of Yastrzemski get the opportunity to throw out first pitch here on the Cape.
And for two, he has a good arm. I mean, honestly. I mean, he got it exactly where it needed to go. And, yeah, set the scene here for a good appearance early in this one by Griffin Green, who's trying to follow up that act.
Carter Putz will lead things off in the second for Harwich. Of course, Carl's grandson Mike currently in the majors as there's a chopper to third. Bullard fields it cleanly, throw on to first, bobbled, but held on to by Thompson for out number one. Yeah, Mike Yastrzemski, who I believe is a Cape Cod Baseball League alum, currently playing for the San Francisco Giants, who are having a heck of a season out in the NL West.
Well, having a heck of a season and only getting stronger. A couple of moves made at the MLB trade deadline, and they were right in the mix.
Mike Yastrzemski, of course, 30 years old, an Andover, Massachusetts native. First pitch on the way to Jordan Beck from Green, and it's in there for a called strike.
And this year's trade deadline was enough to make your head spin. My goodness. I don't think we've ever seen anything like that. Not in recent memory, at least. Guys moving all over the place.
0-1 from Green, in there for a strike two to Beck. One Harwich Mariner in motion during the 2021 MLB trade deadline. That was Daniel Hudson, right-handed starting pitcher for the Washington Nationals. I believe he actually might have been coming out of the bullpen for them, but he was on the move as the 0-2 in the dirt.
Yeah, Beck will leave it there, and he's a guy that, again, it's like some of these other bats in the Mariners lineup. He's been swinging a better bat here recently, as Jordan Beck had a big home run a couple of nights ago, and trying to set the table right now for a bottom or of the order that's got a lot of potential. But it does seem a little bit boom or bust down here at the bottom 4.
1-2 misses just outside. Of course, he's got 2 home runs this season, both against the YD Red Sox. One at Red Wilson Field and one at White House Field. 2-2 on the way. Fastball, another chopper. Green coming off the mound to field it. The throw is going to be late. And Jordan Beck able to leg out a swinging bunt. So the Mariners, once again, put a runner on base, this time with 1 down.
Yeah, and again, I mean, nothing has been really squared up so far in this game. Harwich's 2 hits, a little blooper out to left field, and now a swinging bunt by Jordan Beck. But that's all you need to get somebody going. And you look at the guys they've got due up in the order next. Brendan Tinsman's due up next. Josh Hood coming to the plate right now. And Hood feels like another one of these guys just due for a big game. I mean, we've seen what he's capable of this season, but he hasn't been able to show it quite as much here recently.
For Hood, hitting .213 on the season. Hits this one hard on the ground, left side. Faltini reaches but can't get it. It's into left field. So a back-to-back singles for Harwich, and they're in business with 1 away in the top of the 2nd.
And this is a fantastic opportunity for the Harwich Mariners, especially when you look at who you've got coming up out of Wake Forest, obviously. It's a teammate of Brock Wilkin, Brendan Tinsman, has looked really good for the Harwich Mariners here in 2021. And the guy just finds his way on base. He's got an on-base percentage of .522 so far this year. He has walked 5 times. He's only struck out 3 times. And hitting .389 as well in a pretty limited sample size. So another guy who's looking to kind of keep those numbers up, and this is who you'd like at the plate right now if you're Harwich.
That single for Hood snapped an 0-for-9 skid over the last 3 games. Green looking to get out of the jam. Starts Tinsman off with a breaking ball. Misses outside. Byrne had to reach before that ball ended up in the backstop. And, of course, backstop here at Stony Brook Field. It's all chain links, so anything that hits it isn't going to bounce back to the catcher.
Yeah, no chance of that. Not even a crash pad for the ball to kind of hop back off of a little bit. It's just going to be dead on the fence.
The 1-0. Tinsman watches at the knees. That one looked a little bit low.
Yeah, definitely a decent angle for us here, but a closer angle for the home plate umpire, Jason Caraco. Tinsman will have to get a little more protective here.
Count even 1-1. Beck standing on second. Hood at first. Griffin Green with the 1-1. Breaking ball fouled off.
And I think part of the reason, we talk about how Brewster's been able to have this success against Harwich this year, thanks in part to their pitching, but Colin, through these first 3 games, how many situations has Brewster gotten themselves into where their pitchers weren't completely comfortable? Not many.
No, not at all.
I'm not convinced that Harwich has had the bases loaded that I can remember at any point against Brewster this year.
Very few runners in scoring position, especially on the road. The 1-2, both runners going. Swing and a miss by Tinsman, and the catcher Byrne will just eat it. So it is a double steal for the Mariners. That puts 2 in scoring position, but with Tinsman swinging and missing, that also puts 2 outs in the out column.
Well, and speaking of guys who have been a little bit boom or bust this year, Max Codier will stride to the plate now. Codier looked very good. He looked virtually unstoppable in that game against the Hyannis Harbor Hawks, that wild game that took place earlier this season. Codier in that one, 3 for 4, 4 RBIs, a couple of doubles for him as well.
It's in a bit of a mini slump. Back-to-back hitless games, 27th and the 28th. Drawing back in the lineup here. First pitch misses down low.
And I think, again, we've seen this throughout the year. Obviously, Codier's defense has been phenomenal, but just because a guy is slowed down a little bit doesn't mean Coach E's not going to keep that bat in the lineup. He likes to give his guys opportunities to try to bounce back themselves. I mean, look at how many opportunities Matt McDermott has gotten over these last couple of days. So Coach E giving his guys the playing time, letting them sort things out themselves, and Codier with a good opportunity to put the Mariners on top.
1-0 in. Codier chases after a breaking ball down in the dirt. Codier able to raise his average to 289. Talk about what it was about a week ago, or at least 7 games worth of play. He was down at 190 as recent as July 20th. Really hot stretch raising that batting average for the Virginia Cavalier. The 1-1 is in for a called strike.
Yeah, now he's going to have to get really protective here. Just trying to get himself in a good position, but he falls behind 1-2. Griffin Green's got a lot of chances, a lot of opportunities. We saw in his last appearance against the Mariners, 4 strikeouts in 2 innings.
He's already got a pair here in an inning and 2/3. 2 in scoring position, the 1-2. Chopper and Cody just barely able to stay alive.
Yeah, hanging on there by a thread, and again, just trying to find a way to get on base. We've seen a lot of defensive ABs this season, not just for Cody A, but for everybody else up and down the roster. And you like your chances if you can roll it over back to the top of the order. You got Kavanaugh standing on deck, and then Newell and Wilkin if you can get to those guys. But it all comes down to this at-bat with 2 away.
Yeah, speaking of defensive at-bats, I don't press Kavanaugh. Seems like every single at-bat he has, he's working the count full. The 1-2 to Codier. Breaking ball misses inside. Everyone in the Brewster dugout thought it was in there. I think Green did as well. He took off his hat and was just stunned, but the count is even 2-2.
I say Green and the entire infield were on their way back to the dugout, and sometimes that's tough for a pitcher, but sometimes it gives you a little extra motivation. We'll see who that favors here with a 2-2 count.
Codier, 8 runs driven in on the season. The 2-2. Fastball, uppercut swing, fouled back.
And ultimately, obviously, you need the runs here if you're Harwich, but even if they don't find a way to score anybody here, this has been a great at-bat for Codier. He's done a good job fouling off a lot of different pitches in a lot of different spots. Griffin Green has shown him a lot, and he's had an answer for everything so far.
Also driving Green's pitch count up, which is something the Mariners haven't been able to do against Brewster here at Stony Brook, is force a starting pitcher out of the game early. The Whitecap starters really controlling the tempo from the get-go in these home games against the M's. The 2-2. Breaking ball sliced out to left center field, falling quickly, but Jones is over, and he makes the grab out in the gap to end the inning. So the Mariners strand 2 in scoring position. We head to the bottom of the second. Still no score from Stony Brook Field. You're listening to the Harwich Mariners YouTube Network.